It's a word that's hard to say, multidisciplinary, but it's so important. I actually had to think about that a little bit because in TV speak, we don't say things that are multisyllabic. We try to concentrate on very simple ideas and simple words. But if you think about multidisciplinary, it is simple and so important. So a core value of this, you can tell when I'm going back to the script, right? I'm not sure which is better. A core value of the summit is the importance that an understanding of culture and creativity plays in addressing global challenges. We are privileged to open up the summit with an address from a leader, a true leader of cultural efforts around the world, Mrs. Irina Bokova. She is the Director-General of UNESCO. Please welcome her now.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Luis, for this wonderful invitation to participate in this leadership forum. I was thinking, listening to the opening and then further on to the continuing debate, that it's very rare that people talk about economy, about creating jobs, and then pass so easily towards culture, towards the importance of cultural industries and education, and linking also the solution of some of these problems also with the debate about what we do with our education system, how we allocate budgets, and how we enhance creativity through culture and art on a wider level. And then I think it's also a passionate debate for us when I also was listening about this difficult word interdisciplinarity, which we at UNESCO pronounce in different languages. In any of these languages, it is very difficult. So I was listening and I was saying, it's fantastic. This is precisely a UNESCO debate, because we at UNESCO, we are dealing with the questions of education, how to promote and put the education of quality education, of education that creates jobs, of a new economy creating jobs, because as Luis said, this is an economy. Unfortunately, in very many parts of the world, there is economic growth, but there is no jobs creation, there is social exclusion, there were big disparities in some of the emerging economies nowadays in the world, and then very few focus on culture and creative industries. And if you allow me, I would like to enlarge a little bit this debate and look at the global picture of how culture, cultural diversity, creative industries can give some of the responses in this very complex, globalized, and I would say fragile world that we're living in. So I believe that with every day that we move in this 21st century, that we live increasingly in diverse societies, in diverse cities, where we every day are in touch with this incredible diversity around us. We know that we are interconnected. We are interconnected through internet. We are promoting, I believe, more and more people profit from the right of freedom of expression, of creativity. But are we sure that what is happening nowadays makes us more secure? Isn't it a very fragmented world? Are there two tendencies? On one side, we see this diversity, this openness, this interconnectivity, this exchange, this interaction. And on the other side, we are becoming very fragmented. We are becoming maybe in many instances more intolerant, more closed. And I believe that one of the biggest paradigm of this 21st century, based, of course, on all the debate about economic problems, crisis, financial and others, is how we manage this incredible cultural diversity, what kind of solutions we find, and how we inscribe culture in this global public and political debate. Because, as Luis rightfully said, culture is what makes us human. Culture is what touches upon our identities. Culture is what gives us defenses about ourselves in this global village, in this globalized world. And we have seen that when somebody wants to really harm us, they harm first and foremost culture and heritage. We are seeing nowadays what is happening in Mali, We see that the destruction of the cultural heritage in Mali and also the dissemination of videos that discriminate against cultures and religions also provoked violence and, once again, intolerance. So the biggest question is how we harness this cultural diversity and culture to make it also a constructive force for peace and for innovation and for creativity. So I believe that the question of cultural literacy, the questions of new creative industries are coming with all its importance and force today. And we at UNESCO, the United Nations agency that is the guardian of and promoter of cultural diversity and support of culture and heritage, tangible and intangible, we know very well that this cannot be a top-down mandate. We know how much cultural entrepreneurs nowadays, artists, producers, a big spectrum, I would say, of talented people contribute and are engaged in this creative economy. But we need also to make them, give them the space of doing that, be through respective financial instruments, be through political support, or be it also by ecological change around the importance of freedom of expression and creativity. So I believe that nowadays culture has a different meaning for the world. It is on one side to create jobs, on the other side it is to heal some wounds, to give confidence, strength, and to even lessen tension and conflict in many parts of the world. We have been working in this respect also to strengthen social inclusion, and even I would say in very difficult contexts. We see nowadays in Haiti how culture, with its rich tradition of culture, how culture becomes also a motor of reconstruction. We see also the famous craftsmen of Jacmel. I visited 1 month after the earthquake, and I was talking to the craftsmen of Jacmel. They didn't want anything else from us. They said, help us restore our craft work, help us restore our famous festivals, give us the opportunity to continue, because this is the only way we see also the healing of the wounds of the disastrous earthquake. I myself am coming from Southeastern Europe. I remember, I know how important it was to reconstruct the old bridge of Mostar. And this was one of the most fascinating UNESCO's projects, to restore the confidence between different communities after a very bloody war, to rebuild the bridges between cultures. And it is one of the very few, I would say, examples. There are only 2 such examples, very symbolic, when a reconstructed site, historic site, is inscribed on the World Heritage List, which should usually be defending authenticity and historic authenticity also, and historic importance. So the reconstructing of the Bridge of Mostar gave a very powerful message about reconciliation, about alleviating the wounds after a bloody war and conflict. And UNESCO was very proud and still is very proud of this. We are working in many countries. We are working in Haiti again, we are working in Brazil, we are working in the Dominican Republic, in Central America, also to lessen the street violence by young people, once again engaging them in culture, giving them opportunity for a free expression in different contexts. We have created already some 15 years ago the DREAM project. It is dance, read, express, art, music, the DREAM centers that we have in the Philippines, in very many of the Asian countries, to promote social inclusion and citizenship also through art. Recently, we established such a DREAM project in Kabul, in Afghanistan, also to promote through culture, to have the local context and to encourage the people, the different communities, to come together, to overcome the fear, to overcome the mistrust that still exists, and to give them the freedom of creativity. And I think that in this vein of thought, maybe one of the most powerful project that UNESCO had ever had during this more than 65 years of its existence is the notion of the World Heritage. I think the idea of having around one monument, be it natural or historic monument, to proclaim it a universal, a monument of universal value, where all humanity rallies behind this notion, at the time was really a revolutionary notion. And it is, after the war, probably was the most humanistic expression of the community, of the humanity, and of how we have to align ourselves and defend our expressions of culture, these powerful messages of millennium of different civilizations. In fact, this year, we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the World Heritage Convention. And I would like to pay a very particular tribute to its founder, Mr. Russell Train, the famous librarian, US librarian of Congress, who passed away just a few days ago and who can't be with us when we celebrate in the end of the year the 40th anniversary of the World Heritage. Very few people, unfortunately, know that the World Heritage is an American idea. The idea that started with Russell Train and with so many of the intellectuals here of the different, I would say, powerful academics and writers and civil servants also, who thought that after the war, this is the way to unite humanity around a noble cause and to overcome and to spread the ideas of human dignity, of human rights, and also of cultural diversity and support of cultural diversity, which is very important. So I believe that today what is at stake also in terms of conflict and peace and stability, once again, is culture. And whenever we see the conflict instability, this is a culture that is damaged first. Because as I said, they know that if you destroy the culture, you destroy identities. And it's very difficult further to repair it. But the challenge today is also how to use culture for creative work, for innovation, how to use culture for sustainable development. We see growth nowadays, but as we say, it's not any type of growth. We see growth that is also underpinned by decent jobs, which is underpinned also by social inclusion. And in this context, I think that culture is growingly receiving recognition. Whenever I go to Asia, I see the power of culture for creating jobs and for social inclusion. In some of the countries, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in China, cultural industries, creative industries are one of the most dynamic developments of their economy. We know that in some of the, I would say, sectors, very newly developing sectors in these countries, creative industries occupy between 8 and 12% of the GDP of these countries. I believe a new creative economy in the world is emerging, and we must make the most of it. We have created, in fact, a fund for cultural diversity to finance pilot projects, small pilot projects to foster the emergence of local cultural sectors, particularly to strengthen cultural industries in developing countries. I believe it's not a big fund, 5.5 million. This fund already supports 26 projects in 17 African countries, aiming for this transformative change in creating these small and medium enterprises, open markets, create capacity building in order to create sustainable development. I will just give you a few examples. I would like to mention some of the least developed countries in Africa, like Burkina Faso, for example, where the measuring of contribution of its cultural industries this last period showed that 50% of their annual growth rate was thanks to the creative industries. And the government adopted a special strategy, the 2015 Strategy for Growth, where they identified the cultural industries as a priority for their national development. In Benin, we have enabled cultural entrepreneurs to create an innovative, sustainable business model for musicians, a very successful project. Capacity building in Africa also means creating expertise, something that we support. In fact, we have selected from 20 African countries more than 100 experts, 50% of whom are women, in order to participate in intensive distance learning workshops that we will launch this autumn. So once again, I would like to say there are many examples that we have that show the power of the creative industries nowadays. And because we speak about the change of the thinking within the United Nations system, and we are very happy, we were working, UNESCO was working for the changing of the notion of economic development, transforming it into the human development, and as it was mentioned just a while ago, because we believe that economic development data does not reflect all the aspects of a human development. And we add to that also every year a creative economy report that we work with the United Nations Development Programme and some other partners, because through this we can recognize the strategic tools for revenues, for job creation, especially in developing countries, but I would say in the developed countries as well. The growth rate of creative industries is 80% in the Middle East, it is 40% in Africa, 12% in South America, and on average, as I said, 10% in Asia. This shows that a new type of economy is emerging, and we have to get the most of it in order to give responses to some of the most important questions of nowadays world. And I believe that, as I said at the beginning, and I would like to end with that, we live in a globalized and very fragile world. We live in a world that is full of contradictions. As I said, it's a paradox. But while we have this interconnectivity, it's fragmented, and it doesn't mean that we are more tolerant towards each other. The power of culture, the power equally of education, the power of sciences, I know that these questions will be debated here, and I think this is so wonderful about this Creative Summit, that you tackle the so important questions of the soft power, of those issues that will give the responses to the world crisis nowadays in the world. I think that unless we include in this debate the questions of culture, the questions of creative industries, the questions of arts, we will not be up to the expectations of people, and we will not give the humane responses to what is at stake nowadays in the world. I believe that culture heals. Culture is what makes us human. Culture is what will drive humanity forward in order to find the right responses. And culture, I believe, finally, will give also, and cultural diversity, will give some of the answers of the most difficult questions of conflict, of war, of intolerance. And we have to tackle it with the full responsibility of politicians, of civil servants, of intellectuals, of academics, of civil society, of people engaged in finding these responses. So thank you once again for your attention, and thank you, Luis, for inviting me, involving also UNESCO in this important summit. Thank you.